In the ancient funeral parlor of San Isidro, dim yellow lights cast shadows on cold stone walls. The air hung heavy with the scent of lilies and tears. A silent crowd bowed their heads, bidding farewell to Police Chief Javier Morales, the town's hero, believed to have died from a sudden heart attack. But amid the sacred stillness, a sound tore through the air. A bark. Fierce. Frenzied. Max, the Norwegian elkhound, once Javier's loyal partner, stood rigid before the coffin. Its fur bristled, its sharp brown eyes locked onto the glossy walnut casket. Growls rumbled from Max's throat, echoing loud, drowning out the priest's prayers and the muffled sobs of mourners. "Get that damn dog out of here!" Deputy Chief Diego Vargas shouted, his face flushed with rage. "This is a holy place." But Max didn't stop. It lunged forward, claws raking the coffin, sending white lilies crashing to the marble floor. The crowd gasped. Screams erupted. Elena Morales, Javier's widow, covered her mouth, her hands trembling. "My God," Elena choked out, her voice breaking. Detective Antonio Ruiz, standing still among the crowd, felt his chest tighten. He'd seen Max in countless missions as a working dog. But this wasn't grief for a lost master. This was a warning. Max was trying to say something. "Don't touch it," Antonio yelled, raising a hand to stop two officers dragging Max away. With terrifying strength, Max bit into the silk draping the coffin, tearing it apart. Shreds of white fabric fluttered like ghosts in the air. The crowd froze. Diego Vargas rushed forward, gripping Antonio's shoulder. "What the hell are you doing, Ruiz? This is an outrage." But Antonio didn't listen. His eyes fixed on Max, on the desperation in every claw mark. A chill ran down his spine. 23 years as a detective, and he'd never seen anything like this. "Open the coffin," Antonio ordered. His voice low but razor sharp. Murmurs rippled through the room. Elena stepped forward, eyes wet but fierce with resolve. "Do it, Antonio. If Max senses something, I need to know." Diego shook his head, his voice trembling with fury. "You're insane, both of you." But Antonio stood firm. He knieled beside Max, hand resting on the dog's head. "You know something, don't you?" he whispered. "The funeral staff, Belfast, hesitated." Looking at Elena, she nodded, voice shaky but certain. "Open it, now." The heavy coffin lid creaked as it lifted. Dim light fell on Javier Morales's still body, dressed in a gleaming police uniform adorned with medals. The crowd held its breath. No one knew what waited. Coroner Isabel Torres, standing quietly in the corner, stepped forward. Her gloved hands trembled slightly as she pressed fingers to Javier's neck. "10 seconds. Long as a lifetime." Then her eyes widened. "There's a pulse," Isabel said, her voice slicing through the deadly silence. "Faint, but it's there." The funeral parlor erupted in chaos. Elena collapsed into her sister, Carmen's arms, sobbing and laughing in shock. Max barked triumphantly, tail thrashing like victory. But Antonio, staring at Diego Vargas's ashen face, knew one thing for certain. This was no accident. Someone had tried to kill Javier Morales, and they were still out there, among the mourners, in the shadows of San Isidro. Hello, everyone. This is Huellas y Susurros, where mysteries and gripping tales are told with raw truth. If you love dark secrets and unshakable loyalty, hit subscribe and ring the bell to never miss an episode. The story's just begun. Can Antonio and Max unravel the deadly plot? What secrets hide behind Javier's faked death? Drop a comment. Share your thoughts. And let us know what city you're watching from. See you in the next chapter. The sterile halls of San Isidro's hospital buzzed with urgency. Machines beeped in rhythm with racing hearts. Nurse doubted best. Their shoes squeaking on polished floors. In the intensive care unit, Police Chief Javier Morales lay motionless. Tubes snaking from his arms to monitors that tracked his fragile pulse. A miracle. They called it. He was alive. Barely. Detective Antonio Ruiz stood outside the glass door. His weathered hands gripping a lukewarm coffee. His eyes sharp, despite the exhaustion etched into his face. Scanned the corridor. Max, the Norwegian elkhound, lay at his feet. Ears twitching at every sound. The dog's bandages from the funeral parlor scuffle were fresh. But his focus never wavered. He guarded Javier as fiercely as Antonio did. Someone tried to kill him. Antonio muttered to himself. The words tasted bitter. 23 years on the force. And he'd never imagined Javier his mentor. His savior would end up here. Betrayed. A soft hand touched his arm. Elena Morales, Javier's wife, stood beside him. Her face pale but resolute. Her auburn hair, streaked with silver, was pulled back tightly, as if to hold her grief in place. Antonio, you saved him, she said. Voice low. Max saved him. I don't know how to thank you. Don't thank me yet. Antonio replied, glancing at Javier through the glass. He's not safe. Not until we know who did this. Elena's eyes darkened. Javier was worried. The last few weeks. He worked late. Secretive. He wouldn't tell me why. But I knew it was big. Something dangerous. Antonio nodded, filing away her words. Javier had been leading a major drug trafficking case in San Isidro's East District. The town, once a quiet haven of 75 zero souls, had been scarred by factory closures and a creeping opioid crisis. Crime followed. And whispers of a powerful cartel had grown louder. Javier was chasing something or someone big. Footsteps echoed down the hall. Coroner Isabel Torres approached. Lab coat crisp. Hier expression grim. She clutched a tablet. Her fingers tapping nervously. Antonio. We need to talk, she said, glancing at Elena. Privately. Elena hesitated. Then nodded. I'll stay with Javier, she said, slipping into the ICU room. Max whined softly, watching her go, but stayed by Antonio's side. Isabel led Antonio to a quiet corner, her voice dropping to a whisper. The toxicology report came back. Javier was poisoned with tetrodotoxin. It's rare. Sophisticated. Slows the heart and breathing to mimic death. Whoever did this wanted him buried before anyone asked questions. Antonio's jaw tightened. This wasn't a mistake. It was planned. Exactly. Isabel said. The paramedics followed protocol. But this toxin is designed to fool standard tests. Without Max's outburst, we'd have buried Javier alive. The thought sent a chill through Antonio. He remembered Diego Vargas's pale face at the funeral parlor. His insistence on rushing the burial. Diego, Javier's deputy for 8 years, was ambitious. Polished. Always a step removed from the warmth Javier inspired. Could he be involved? Isabel, who had access to Javier before he collapsed, Antonio asked. She frowned. He was at home when Elena found him. She'd been at the market. No visitors, as far as she knows. But the toxin was administered over days, small doses. Likely in his food or drink. Antonio's mind raced. Someone close. Someone trusted. Keep this quiet, he said. No one gets that report without my say-so. Isabel nodded. But her eyes flicked to the hallway. Be careful. Antonio. Whoever did this. They're watching. As she left, Antonio's phone buzzed. A text from Officer Sofia Navarro. One of the few he trusted. Deputy Vargas is at the station. Pushing to close Javier's case as natural causes. Wants to meet you now. Antonio's gut twisted. Diego was moving fast, too fast. He glanced at Max, who sensed his tension and stood ready. Come on, boy, Antonio said. Let's see what Diego's hiding. The San Isidro police station was a squat brick building, its fluorescent lights harsh against the evening gloom. Antonio parked his unmarked car. Max in the passenger seat. Eyes alert. The station felt different tonight. Its usual bustle, replaced by an eerie quiet. Officers whispered in corners, avoiding Antonio's gaze. Diego Vargas waited in Javier's office, perched on the edge of the desk like he already owned it. His blonde hair was immaculate, his uniform pressed to perfection. But his smile didn't reach his eyes. Antonio, he said, standing. Good of you to come. How's Javier alive? Antonio said flatly, letting Max sit close. A silent warning, no thanks to whoever poisoned him. Diego's smile faltered. Just for a second. Poisoned. That's a strong claim. The paramedic said heart attack. Tragic. But clear. Paramedics can be wrong. Antonio said, watching Diego's hands. They stayed still. But his knuckles whitened. We're opening an investigation. Full autopsy. No stone unturned. Diego's eyes narrowed. An autopsy, Elena won't allow it. She wants Javier's memory respected, not carved up. Elena wants answers. Antonio countered it. And I'll get them. The air grew thick with tension. Max growled low, sensing the shift. Diego stepped closer, voice dropping. You're out of your depth, Ruiz. Javier was a hero, but he made enemies. Poking around could put you and Elena in danger. Is that a threat? Antonio asked, his hand resting near his holster. Diego laughed, raising his hands. A warning. Old friend. San Isidro's changing. Not everyone's as loyal as you. Before Antonio could respond, a crash echoed from the hallway. Espun. Gundron. Max barking fiercely. Sofia Navarro boosting. Face flushed. Sir. We've got a problem. Someone broke into Javier's house. It's a mess. Antonio's blood ran cold. Elena was at the hospital. But Javier's home held case files. Evidence. Secret someone wanted buried. Diego. You're with me, he said. Testing him. Diego hesitated, then nodded. Of course. Let's go. The Morales house stood dark on a quiet street. Its windows, like empty eyes. The front door hung ajar, splintered at the lock. Antonio swept inside. Flashlight cutting through the shadows. Max at his heels. Diego followed, his own gun drawn. But his movements felt rehearsed. Too careful. The living room was trashed. Bookshelves toppled. Cushions slashed. Javier's study, where he worked late nights, was worse. Papers littered the floor. The safe cracked open. Empty. They knew what they were looking for. Antonio said, kneeling to inspect a shattered photo frame of Javier and Elena. Max sniffed the safe, growling softly. Diego shook his head. Probably junkies. The East District's crawling with them. Junkies don't crack safe. Antonio snapped. He spotted a faint scuff mark on the floor, leading to the back door. Sophia. Check the perimeter. Max. Stay sharp. As Sophia slipped outside, Antonio turned to Diego. You were quick to call this natural causes. Why? Diego's face hardened. I'm trying to keep this town from falling apart. Ruiz. Javier's death, sorry. Collapse has everyone on edge. We need stability. Not wild theories. Stability. Antonio stepped closer. Or a cover-up, Diego's eyes flashed. But before he could answer, Sophia's voice crackled over the radio. Sir. I found something. Backyard. Now. Antonio rushed out. Max bounding ahead. In the garden. Sophia stood over a patch of disturbed soil. A glint of metal catching the moonlight. She held up a syringe. Its needle glinting. Buried shallow. She said. Fresh dirt. Antonio's pulse raced. Tetrodotoxin. Isabel had said. This was no coincidence. He glanced at Diego, whose face was unreadable in the dark. Beg it. Antonio ordered. And get a forensics team here. Diego shifted. His voice tight. You're making a mistake. Antonio. This won't end well. For who? Antonio asked. Locking eyes with him. Diego didn't answer. He turned and walked back to his car, leaving Antonio with Sophia and Max under the stars. The syringe gleamed in the evidence bag. A silent promise of answers and danger. Back at the hospital, Antonio sat by Javier's bed. Max curled at his feet. Elena slept in a chair. Exhausted. The monitors beeped steadily. But Javier's face was pale. His breathing shallow. Someone's cleaning house. Antonio whispered to Max. But we're not done yet. Max lifted his head. Eyes fierce. As if he understood. Somewhere in San Isidro, the poisoner was watching. Waiting. And Antonio knew the next move could cost them everything. Hello. Everyone. This is Huellas y Susurros, where mysteries and gripping tales are told with raw truth. If you love dark secrets and unshakable loyalty, hit subscribe and ring the bell to never miss an episode. What's Diego hiding? Can Antonio protect Javier before the killer strikes again? Drop a comment. Share your thoughts. And let us know what city you're watching from. See you in the next chapter. The dawn light crept through the hospital blinds, casting thin stripes across Javier Morales' still form. His chest rose and fell. A fragile rhythm tethered to machines. Detective Antonio Ruiz sat vigil in the ICU. His eyes bloodshot from a sleepless night. Max, the Norwegian elkhound, lay at his feet. Bandaged, but alert. His nose twitching at the sterile air. The syringe found in Javier's garden weighed heavy in Antonio's mind, a shard of proof that someone wanted the chief dead. Buried. Forgotten. Elena Morales stirred in her chair. Her face etched with worry. Any news? Antonio, she asked. Voice hoarse. Not yet. He said, glancing at her. Forensics is analyzing the syringe. But whoever did this, they're close. Too close. Elena's hands tightened around a rosary. Javier trusted everyone. That was his strength. And his weakness. Antonio nodded. His thoughts drifting to Deputy Chief Diego Vargas. Diego's rush to close Javier's case. His unease at the house break-in, every move screamed guilt. But Antonio needed proof. Not instinct. And he needed it fast. A soft knock broke his thoughts. Officer Sofia Navarro slipped inside. Her dark eyes scanning the room. She held a sealed envelope. Her expression tense. Sir. You need to see this, she said, handing it to Antonio. From the station archives. I pulled it myself. Antonio tore it open, revealing a single page. A report dated 3 weeks ago. Signed by Javier. It detailed a meeting with an informant claiming a cartel was funneling drugs through San Isidro's port. With protection from someone high up. The informant's name was redacted. But Javier's notes hinted at a mole in the police force. This is why they targeted him. Antonio said. His voice low. He was getting too close. Sofia nodded. There's more. The archive log shows someone accessed this file yesterday. Hours after Javier's collapse. Guess who? Diego. Antonio said. His gut twisting. Not just him. Sofia replied. Judge Miguel Serrano's office requested a copy. Said it was for an unrelated case. Antonio's blood ran cold. Serrano. A respected judge for 20 years. Had presided over countless drug cases. Dismissing several key ones citing lack of evidence. Was he part of this? Keep this quiet. Antonio told Sofia. And watch, Diego. I want to know every move he makes. Sofia hesitated. Sir. There's something else. The informant Javier met. He's dead. Found in the harbor 2 days ago. Ruled a suicide. But the coroner's report mentions bruises inconsistent with a fall. Antonio's jaw clenched. Get me that report. And find out who ruled it a suicide. As Sofia left. Elena's voice trembled. Antonio. If they killed that man. What's stopping them from coming for Javier again? Nothing. Antonio admitted. That's why I'm not leaving his side. Max growled softly. As if agreeing. Antonio patted the dog's head. His resolve hardening. We'll find them. Boy. Y promise. By noon. Antonio headed to the station. Mux trotting beside him. The syringe's forensic results wouldn't be ready for hours. But the archive report burned in his pocket. He needed to dig deeper into Javier's case files. And the station's secure server held them all. The bullpen was tense. Officers avoiding his gaze. Diego's office door was closed. But Antonio caught a glimpse of him through the blinds. Pacing. Phone pressed to his ear. Ignoring the stares. Antonio logged into Javier's private server. Using a password the chief had shared years ago. The screen filled with case files. Most labeled East District Trafficking. One stood out, Operation Limpia. Dated the day before Javier's collapse. Antonio opened it. Heart pounding. The file detailed a sting operation targeting a cartel shipment. With Javier coordinating with an unnamed federal contact. A single line chilled him, suspect internal leak. Trust compromised. Before he could read more. The server crashed. The screen flashing, access denied, damit. Antonio muteret. Slamming his fist on the desk. Max barked. Startled. A shadow fell over him. Diego stood in the doorway. Arms crossed. His smile thin. Problem. Hui service down. Antonio said. Keeping his voice even. Know anything about it? Diego shrugged. Old system. Happens all the time. What were you looking for? Answers. Antonio said. Standing. Letting Max's presence fill the space. Javier was poisoned. Diego. Someone in this station might know why. Diego's eyes flickered. But he held his ground. Careful. Antonio. Accusations like that can ruin a man. You're stressed. Take a break. I'll rest when Javier's safe. Antonio shot back. Brushing past him. Max growled. Tail stiff. As they left. Outside. Antonio's phone buzzed. A voicemail from Isabel Torres. Out of voice urgent. Antonio. Call me back. The syringe results are in. And it's worse than we thought. He dialed her number. Heart racing. Isabel. What's on the syringe? Her voice was tight. Tetrodotoxin. As expected. But there's a second compound, a synthetic paralytic. It's military grade. Antonio. Not something a street dealer could get. This came from someone with connections. Deep ones. Antonio's mind spun. Military grade. That pointed beyond San Isidro. To a network with power and reach. Who else knows, he asked. Just you. Isabel said. But I'm worried. My lab was accessed again last night. Nothing was taken. But someone was here. Lock it down. Antonio said. And don't trust anyone. As he hung up, a black motorcycle roared past. Its rider's face hidden by a helmet. Mex lunged. Barking furiously. Nearly pulling Antonio off balance. The bike vanished around a corner. But the chill in Antonio's spine lingered. Someone was watching. That night, Antonio returned to the hospital. Max at his side. Javier's condition hadn't improved. But he hadn't worsened either. A small victory. Elena was gone. Persuaded to rest at her sister Carmen's house. Antonio settled into a chair. The archive report and Isabel's warning swirling in his mind. Judge Serrano. Diego Vargas. A dead informant. A military gratte poison. The pieces didn't fit yet. His phone vibrated. Snapping him alert. A text from an unknown number. Stop digging. Ruiz. Or, Elena Pace. Antonio's blood froze. He forwarded the text to Sofia. Ordering her to check on Elena. Max sensed his tension. Standing. Il spricht. Minutes later. Sofia called. Elena's safe at Carmen's. Sire. But there's a car parked across the street. Unmarked. Tinted windows. I'm watching it. Stay with her. Antonio said. Don't let her out of your sight. He stared at Javier. The monitor's steady beeps, mocking the chaos outside. Who did this to you? He whispered. Max whined. Nudging his hand. Antonio scratched the dog's ears. A fleeting comfort. Then he noticed something, a faint mark on Javier's neck. Barely visible under the hospital light. A puncture. Surrounded by a bruise. Isabel missed this. He muttered. Grabbing his phone to snap a photo. He sent it to her with a single word: explain. Her reply came fast. Not from the hospital. That's fresh. Check the IV line. Antonio's heart pounded. He traced Javier's IV tube. Finding a tiny puncture in the plastic. Sealed with clear tape. Someone had tampered with it here. In the ICU, he yanked the line free. Careful not to disturb Javier. And bagged it as evidence. Max growled. Sensing danger. Footsteps approached. Antonio spun. Hand on his gun. As a nurse entered. Startled. Sir. You can't touch that, she said. Who's been in this room? Antonio demanded. Just staff. She stammered. Dr. Lopez. Me. The night nurse names. Antonio snapped. She listed them. But none stood out. Yet someone had slipped past security. Poisoned Javier again. Right under their noses. Antonio's phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. Next time. He doesn't wake up. Rage surged through him. But he forced it down. He called Sofia. Double the guard on Elena. And get a team to the hospital. Someone's here. As the night deepened. Antonio Stuttgart. Max at his side. The tampered IV bag in his hand. The enemy was closer than he'd feared. Their reach terrifying. But Antonio wasn't alone. Max's fierce loyalty. Javier's hidden felis. Elena's trust they were his weapons. And he'd use them to burn this conspiracy to the ground. Hello. Everyone. This is Huellas y Susurros. where mysteries and gripping tales are told with raw truth. If you love dark secrets and unshakable loyalty, hit subscribe and ring the bell to never miss an episode. Who's poisoning Javier? Is Diego the traitor? Or is someone bigger pulling the strings? Drop a comment. Share your thoughts. And let us know what city you're watching from. See you in the next chapter. The San Isidro hospital was a fortress of light against the midnight gloom. But its sterile walls hid a growing darkness. Detective Antonio Ruiz stood in the ICU. His hand resting on the grip of his service pistol, the tampered IV bag, now sealed in an evidence pouch, sat on the table beside him. Someone had poisoned Police Chief Javier Morales again. Right under the hospital's watchful eyes. Max, the Norwegian elk-hound, paced the room. His bandaged leg, not slowing his restless vigilance. His low growls echoed Antonio's unease. Elena Morales had returned. Her face, a mask of fear, after Sofia Navarro's report of the unmarked car near her sister's house. Antonio. They're coming for us, she whispered, clutching Javier's hand. His monitors beeped steadily. "O fragile lifeline. They won't get through me," Antonio said, his voice firm. Or Max. But the threatening texts burned in his mind. "Stop digging. Ruiz. Or, Elena Pace. Next time he doesn't wake up." Whoever was behind this wasn't just bold, they were desperate. And desperation made them deadly. A sharp knock startled them. Coronel Isabel Torres Enterez. Her face pale, under the fluorescent lights. She held a manila folder, her hands trembling slightly. "Antonio. I analyzed the IV puncture," she said, glancing at Elena. "It's the same paralytic as the syringe from Javier's garden. Someone tried to finish what they started." Antonio's stomach churned. "How did they get in?" "This room's guarded." Isabel shook her head. "The night shift nurse found the IV tampered during her rounds. No one saw anything unusual, but I checked the security footage. It's been erased 10 minutes of it. Right when the shift changed." Antonio's jaw tightened. "On inside job. Who has access to the cameras?" "Hospital security. Senior staff," Isabel said. "And anyone with enough money to bribe them." Elena's voice broke. "Why Javier? What did he know?" Antonio exchanged a glance with Isabel. The archive report from Javier's files, detailing a cartel mole and a dead informant, pointed to a conspiracy bigger than San Isidro. Judge Miguel Serrano's name, tied to the file's access. Lu Medlar. And Deputy Chief Diego Vargas's push to bury the case raised red flags. He was chasing a cartel, Antonio said carefully. Someone powerful didn't want him to succeed. Before Elena could respond, Antonio's phone buzzed. Officer Sofia Navarro's voice crackled through. "Sir, I've got something on the informant's death. Meet me at the harbor. Alone. Stay with Javier." Antonio told Isabel. "No one enters without my clearance." Elena. "You're safe here." Max. Guard. Max sat by Javier's bed, eyes fierce. As Antonio slipped out, the dog's loyalty was a lifeline in a town where trust was crumbling. The San Isidro harbor was a maze of rusted cranes and salt-worn docks, the air thick with diesel and seaweed. Moonlight glinted off the water, casting eerie shadows. Antonio parked his car behind a stack of shipping containers, his gun holstered but ready. Sofia waited by a pier, her silhouette tense against the lapping waves. "What's this about?" Antonio asked, scanning the empty docks. Sofia handed him a photo, grainy but clear. It showed a man in his 30s, bruised face, hands bound, standing on a dock. "This is Javier's informant, Carlos Vega," she said. "Taken hours before his suicide. Found on a burner phone in the evidence locker. Someone tried to wipe it. Antonio's pulse quickened. Who's behind the camera? No face. But look at the reflection. Sofia pointed to a glint in the water, a man's silhouette. Wearing a police badge. Diego. Antonio breathed. The deputy's polished image flashed in his mind. His insistence on closing Javier's case. Maybe. Sofia said. But there's more. Vega was talking to Javier about a cartel shipment due tomorrow night. Vega claimed it was protected by someone in the mayor's office. Mayor Luis Navarro Antonio frowned. Luis, a charismatic politician, had backed Javier's anti-drug initiatives. Could he be dirty? Sofia nodded. Vega's notes. Found in his apartment. Mention, LN, and a meeting with a judge. Sounds like Serrano. Antonio's mind raced. Diego. Serrano. Maybe Luis, a web of betrayal. Why alone? Sofia, why not at the station? She hesitated. Eyes darting to the shadows. I don't trust the station. Too many eyes. Diego's got people watching. Asudan rustle ma de Antonio spin. Gun drawn. A figure emerged from behind a crate, tall. Hooded. Hands raised. Don't shoot. A low voice said. I'm here to help. Sofia stepped forward. This is Mateo. My contact. He worked with Vega. Antonio lowered his gun slightly. Wary. Talk fast. Mateo. Face scarred and gaunt. Spoke quickly. Vega was killed because he knew too much. The cartel's got a mole in your force. High up. They call him El Fantasma, the ghost. He's been feeding them everything Javier uncovered. Name. Antonio de Mandez. Mateo shook his head. I don't know. But Vega said El Fantasma meets the cartel tomorrow at the shipment. Pierre Decept. Midnight. Antonio's grip tightened. A chance to catch the mole. Why trust me? Because Vega trusted Javier. Mateo said. And you're the only one still asking questions. Before Antonio could reply. Headlights flashed across the harbor. A black SUV screeched to a stop. Doors flying open. 3 men in dark jackets spilled out. Guns glinting. Ambush, Sofia yelled. Diving behind a crate. Antonio dropped low. Heart pounding. As bullets sparked against metal. Mateo bolted. Vanishing into the shadows. Sofia returned fire. Her shots precise but outnumbered. Cover me, Antonio shouted. Sprinting toward a stack of barrels. A bullet grazed his arm. Hot pain, searing through him. He ducked. Cursing. And fired back. Hitting one attacker in the leg. The man screamed. Collapsing. The SUV's engine roared. Tires squealing as it sped away. Leaving the wounded man behind. Sofia Kufedim. Her face grim. He's not talking yet. She said. Checking his pockets. But look at this. She held up a phone. Its screen showing a text. Ruiz at harbor. Take him out. DS. Diego Serrano. Antonio growled. Blood dripping from his arm. Or someone using his initials. Sofia shook her head. We need to move. They'll come back. At the hospital. Antonio's arm was bandaged. The graze shallow but stinging. Javier's condition was stable. But the tampered IV haunted him. Elena. Pal. Refused to leave. I heard the shots on Sofia's radio. She said. You're a target now. 2. I've been a target before. Antonio said. Forcing a smile. Max nudged his hand. Aquieta Ancor. Isabela Ribez. Her face drawn. The puncture on Javier's neck. It's from a microsyringe. Designed for covert delivery. I found traces of the paralytic in his blood. He's lucky to be alive. Lucky's not enough. Antonio said. Tomorrow's shipment is our chance. If El Fantasma's there, we take him down. Sofia nodded. But her eyes were troubled. What if it's Diego or Serrano? Or worse, someone we haven't seen? Then we trust Javier's instincts. Antonio said, glancing at the chief. And Max's nose. As dawn broke, Antonio stood by the ICU window. The harbor's ambush replaying in his mind. The wounded attacker was in custody. Silent, but alive. The phone's text pointed to Diego. But Antonio sensed a bigger hand at play. El Fantasma was out there, pulling strings. And tomorrow's sting could be a trap. Max whined. Sensing his tension, Antonio knelt, meeting the dog's fierce eyes. We're close, boy, he whispered. But they're closer. The game was deadly now. And San Isidro's shadows hid a ghost, who wouldn't stop until Javier and Antonio were silenced forever. Hello, everyone. This is Huellas y Susurros, where mysteries and gripping tales are told with raw truth. If you love dark secrets and unshakable loyalty, hit subscribe and ring the bell to never miss an episode. Who is El Fantasma? Will Antonio survive the cartel's trap? Drop a comment. Share your thoughts. And let us know what city you're watching from. See you in the next chapter. The San Isidro harbor lay shrouded in fog, its cranes looming like skeletal giants against the midnight sky. The air was thick with salt and tension, the distant hum of waves broken only by the creak of docked ships. Detective Antonio Ruiz crouched behind a stack of crates at Pier 17. His breath steady, despite the ache in his bandaged arm. Max, the Norwegian elkhound, lay beside him. Ears pricked, eyes glinting in the dark. The dog's bandages were barely visible. His focus, razor sharp. Tonight was their chance to catch El Fantasma, the cartel's mole in San Isidro's police force. Antonio adjusted his earpiece. Sofia Navarro's voice crackling through. Teams in position. Sia. 2 snipers on the crane. 4 officers at the perimeter. No sign of the shipment yet. Stay sharp, Antonio whispered. They know we're coming. The ambush at the harbor last night had left him rattled. The attacker in custody hadn't spoken. But the phone's text, Ruiz at harbor. Take him out. Diaz pointed to Deputy Chief Diego Vargas, or someone using his initials. Judge Miguel Serrano's shadow loomed larger. His office's request for Javier Morales' archive file tying him to the conspiracy. And the mention of Mayor Luis Navarro in the dead informant's notes raised chilling questions. Antonio glanced at his watch. 11:47 p.m. The cartel shipment was due any minute. And with it, El Fantasma, Mateo, Sofia's contact, had vanished after the ambush. But his tip about Pier 17 held weight. Antonio trusted Javier's instincts and Max's nose to guide them. A low growl rumbled from Max. Antonio followed the dog's gaze to the pier's edge, where a black van rolled silently into view. Headlights off. 3 men emerged, dressed in dark jackets, their faces obscured. One carried a duffel bag. Another, a rifle. Eyes on targets. Antonio said into his earpiece. Hold position. The men scanned the pier. Movements precise. Professional. A 4th figure stepped from the van. Taller. Wearing a long coat. His posture was familiar. But the fog blurred details. Antonio's heart pounded. Was this El Fantasma? Sofia's voice hissed through the earpiece. Sir. We've got movement at the water. A boat's approaching. No lights. Antonio peered through the fog. A small vessel glided toward the pier. Its engine barely audible. The men on the dock signaled with a flashlight. And the boat slowed, docking smoothly. Two figures aboard tossed a crate to the pier. The thud echoing in the stillness. That's the shipment, Antonio said. Wait for the exchange. The coated figure approached the crate, kneeling to inspect it. A glint of moonlight caught his face sharp features. Blonde hair. Diego Vargas. Antonio's blood ran cold. It's Diego, he whispered. Es el fantasma. But something felt off. Diego's movements were tense. His glances darting nervously. Was he the mastermind or a pawn? Before Antonio could signal, a spotlight blazed from the crane, flooding the pier in harsh light. Police hands up, a sniper shouted. Ciao zeruptigi. The men on the pier drew weapons, firing wildly. The boat's engine roared, pulling away. Diego dove behind the crate, shouting orders. Antonio cursed the snipers had moved too soon. Go! Max Antonio commanded, sprinting toward the pier. Gun drawn, Max bounded ahead, weaving through crates, his barks cutting through the gunfire. Sofia's team closed in, bullets sparking against metal. One cortemon fell, clutching his shoulder. Another returned fire, pinning Sofia behind a barrel. Antonio reached the pier, diving for cover as a bullet whizzed past. Diego! It's over, Antonio shouted. Drop your weapon. Diego's laugh echoed, bitter and strained. You don't get it, Ruiz. This is bigger than me. Antonio peered around the crate, spotting Diego reloading. Max circled closer, teeth bared, waiting for Antonio's signal. Tell me who, Antonio yelled. Who's pulling the strings? Diego's eyes met his, wild with fear. You'll die before you find out. A sharp crack rang out a sniper's shot. Diego staggered, blood blooming on his chest. He collapsed, the crate splintering under his weight. No, Antonio roared, rushing forward. Diego was their link to El Fantasma. If he was dead, the trail went cold. Max reached Diego first, sniffing cautiously. Antonio knelt, checking for a pulse. Faint. But there. Sofia. Get a medic, he shouted. The remaining cartel men surrendered, cuffed by Sofia's team. The boat had vanished into the fog. Its cargo lost. Antonio stared at Diego's bloodied form, frustration burning. Was Diego el fantasma, or just another piece in the puzzle? As medics arrived, Sofia approached, her face grim. Sir, we found this on Diego. She held up a burner phone. Its screen cracked but active. A single text glowed. Pierre Decept. Neutralise Ruiz. MS. Miguel Serrano. Antonio said, his voice low. The judge's initials. Again. Sofia shook her head. Or someone framing him. We need Diego alive to talk. Antonio nodded. But a new sound froze him. A low, insistent growl from Max. The dog stood rigid, staring at the crate Diego had guarded. Antonio approached, prying it open. Inside, neatly packed, were bricks of white powder heroin, worth millions. But beneath them, a small metal case gleamed. He opened it, heart racing. Inside was a USB drive, labeled Limpier. Javier's operation. Antonio breathed. The file he'd seen on the station server crashed before he could read it. Sofia's eyes widened. If this has what Javier knew, it's why they wanted him dead. Secure it, Antonio said, slipping the drive into his pocket. And get Diego to the hospital. He's not dying until I get answers. Back at the hospital, dawn broke gray and cold. Javier's condition was unchanged, his monitors a steady lifeline. Elena sat by his side, her eyes red from crying. Any closer to the truth, she asked. Closer. Antonio said. The USB drive heavy in his pocket. But it's cost us. Diego was in surgery. His survival uncertain. The cartel men were in custody. But silent. Antonio handed the USB to Sofia. Get this to a secure computer. No station server. Use Isabel's lab. As Sofia left, Antonio's phone buzzed. Coroner Isabel Torres. A voice urgent. Antonio. I found something in Javier's blood work. The paralytic doses he's been poisoned for weeks. Not days. Someone's been at this for a long time. Antonio's mind reeled. Weeks. That meant someone closer than Diego. Someone with constant access to Javier. Check Elena's house. He said. Food. Water. Anything. Isabel hesitated. There's more. The microsyringe from the IV. It's custom-made. Linked to a supplier in Madrid. Only one client in San Isidro ordered them. Mayor Luis Salazar. Antonio's breath caught. Luis. Javier's mentor. The man who'd backed his reforms. Could he be El Fantasma? Before he could process, Sofia burst in. Face Eschen. Sir. The USB, it's encrypted. But we cracked the first file. It's a recording of Javier meeting someone. You need to hear it. In Isabel's lab. The audio played. Javier's voice clear boutons. I know you're involved. Luis. The cartel's paying you to look the other way. A second voice smooth. Cultured replied. You're out of your depth. Javier. Walk away. Or you'll lose everything. The voice was unmistakable. Mayor Luis Salazar. Antonio's world tilted. Luis. Diego. Serrano, a triangle of betrayal. But who was the true El Fantasma? Max growled. Sensing his rage. Antonio knelt. Meeting the dog's eyes. We're not done. Boy. He said. Not by a long shot. As he left the lab. His phone vibrated. Another text from the unknown number. You found the drive. Now you d. Antonio's grip tightened. The sting had exposed Diego. But the real enemy was still out there. Watching. Waiting. And with Javier's life hanging by a thread. Antonio knew the next move could be their last. Hello. Everyone. This is Huellas y Susurros. Where mysteries and gripping tales are told with raw truth. If you love dark secrets and unshakable loyalty, hit subscribe and ring the bell to never miss an episode. Is Luis Salazar El Fantasma? Can Antonio protect Javier from a traitor so close? Drop a comment. Share your thoughts. And let us know what city you're watching from. See you in the next chapter. The San Isidro hospital was a beacon in the pre-dawn gray. Its lights defiant against the creeping fog. Inside the ICU. Police Chief Javier Morales lay still. His life tethered to machines that hummed with quiet urgency. Detective Antonio Ruiz stood by the window. The encrypted USB drive from Pier 17 burning a hole in his pocket. The recording of Mayor Luis Salazar's voice, calm, threatening, undeniable, played on a loop in his mind. Walk away, Javier. Or you'll lose everything. Max. The Norwegian Elkhound. Sat at Antonio's feet. His bandaged leg barely slowing him. His ears twitched. Sensing the storm brewing in Antonio's silence. The dog's loyalty was a constant. A shield against the betrayal closing in. Elena Morales. Pale and exhausted. Clutched Javier's hand. Antonio. You're bleeding. She said. Eyeing the bandage on his arm. Seeping red from the harbor sting. It's nothing. Antonio lied. His voice steady. The graze hurt. But the pain in his chest was worse. Luis Salazar. Javier's mentor. A man Antonio had voted for was tied to the cartel, Deputy Chief Diego Vargas. Shot and clinging to life in surgery. Was a piece of the puzzle. But not the whole picture. Judge Miguel Serrano's shadow lingered. His office's access to Javier's files a silent accusation. And El Fantasma, the cartel's mole, remained a ghost. Taunting them with threatening texts. You found the drive. Now you do. A soft knock broke the tension. Coronel Isabel Torres entered. Her face drawn. A tablet in hand. Antonio. The blood works back. She said. Glancing at Elena. Javier's paralytic levels are stable. But the long-term exposure it's damaged his kidneys. He's fighting. But it's a war. Elena's breath hitched. Will he wake up? Isabel hesitated. It's too soon to say. But we're doing everything we can. Antonio's jaw tightened. What about the mayor's supplier? The microsyringes. Isabel's voice dropped. The Madrid supplier confirmed Luis Salazar's office ordered them 6 months ago. Billed as medical research. But I dug deeper. The payment came from an offshore account linked to a shell company. It's cartel money. Antonio's mind raced. Luis wasn't just involved, he was funded. Any link to Serrano? Not yet. Isabel said. But his office requested Javier's toxicology report yesterday. Said it was for a legal review. I stalled them. But they're pushing. Keep stalling. Antonio said. And watch your back. As Isabel left. Officer Sofia Navarro slipped in. Her eyes sharp despite the fatigue. She held a laptop. Its screen glowing. Sir. We decrypted more of the USB. She said. It's big. Antonio motioned her to a corner. Away from Elena. Show me. The laptop displayed a grainy video. Time-stamped a month ago. Javier sat in a dimly lit room. Facing a man whose face was blurred, but whose voice was unmistakable, Luis Salazar. You can't prove anything. Javier. Luis said. Leaning forward. The cartel owns San Isidro. Step down. And you walk away. Fight. And you're a dead man. Javier's voice was steel. I've got evidence. Luis. Bank transfers. Wiretaps. You're selling this town for blood money. The video cut off. But a document followed bank records showing millions funneled from the cartel to Luis's campaign through dummy corporations. Antonio's fists clenched. This is why they poisoned him. He was building a case. Sofia nodded. There's more. The drive mentions a meeting with a federal agent. Luz. Javier was working with someone outside San Isidro. Bypassing the station. Luz. Antonio repeated. A federal ally could change everything if they were still alive. Find them. Quietly. Sofia hesitated. Sir. Diego's out of surgery. He's awake. But weak. Doctors say he might not make it through the night. Antonio's pulse quickened. Diego was their only link to El Fantasma. I'm talking to him. Now. The surgical ward was quiet. The air heavy with antiseptic. Diego lay in a private room. His face pale. Tubes snaking from his chest. His eyes. Once sharp, with ambition. Were dull with pain. 2 officers guarded the door. Nodding, as Antonio and Max entered. Diego. Antonio said. Pulling a chair close. Max sat. Eyes locked on the deputy. A low growl, simmering. Time's up. Talk. Diego's lips twitched. A weak smirk. You think you've won. Ruiz. You're a dead man walking. Who's El Fantasma? Antonio demanded. Luis Serrano. Or someone else. Diego coughed. Blood flecking his lips. You're chasing shadows. El Fantasma's untouchable. Always one step ahead. Antonio leaned closer. Voice low. Javier's alive. Your poison failed. And we've got your burner phone. Neutralise Ruiz. MS. Serrano's done. And you're next. Diego's eyes widened. Fear breaking through his bravado. Not Serrano. He rasped. You're looking at the wrong man. Then give me a name. Antonio Prest. Diego's gaze darted to the door. As if expecting a savior or a killer. Check the mayor's office. He whispered. Luis is safe. You'll find proof. His voice faded. Monitors beeping erratically. A nurse rushed in. Pushing Antonio aside. He's crashing, she shouted. Calling for a crash cart. Antonio stepped back. Max growling as medics swarmed. Diego flatlined. The heart monitor's wail piercing the air. He was gone. Taking his secrets to the grave. Back in the ICU. Antonio's mind churned. Luis is safe. Proof. But Diego's fear hinted at a bigger player. Was Luis el Fantasma? Or another pawn? Elena looked up. Hope fading at his expression. Diego dead. Antonio said. But he gave us a lead. He didn't mention Luis. Not yet. Elena trusted the mayor. And shattering that trust could break her. Sofia called. Her voice tense. Sir. I traced the federal agent. Luz. She's in Madrid. But her last contact with Javier was 2 days before his collapse. She's gone dark since. Keep looking. Antonio said. And get a warrant for Luis's office. Discreetly. As Sofia hung up. Antonio's phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. Diego talked. You're next. His blood ran cold. Someone knew Diego's last words. The room's walls felt closer. The air heavier. Max stood. Acules raised. Sensing the unseen threat. By morning. Antonio and Sofia stood outside the mayor's office. A grand building in San Isidro's plaza. The warrant had come through. But Luis was at a council meeting. His office empty. A nervous secretary let them in. Avoiding their eyes. Luis's office was pristine. Oak-paneled. With a view of the town's church spires. The safe. Hidden behind a painting. Was state-of-the-art. Sofia. Trained in forensics. Cracked it in minutes. Inside were stacks of cash. A ledger. And a single photo. Antonio's breath caught. The photo showed Luis shaking hands with a man in a suit. Their faces grim. The man's badge was visible. Judge Miguel Serrano. The ledger listed payments. Coded but clear millions to Luis Serrano. And initial CF unknown. But chilling. El Fantasma. Sofia whispered. Antonio bagged the evidence. His mind racing. Luis and Serrano were in deep. But CF was the key. As they left. A black car idled across the plaza. I driver hidden. Max growled. Pulling against his leash. Antonio's phone vibrated. A new text. Safe's empty now. Tu late. They're watching. Antonio said. Scanning the plaza. And they're scared. Back at the hospital. Antonio showed Isabel the ledger. Cross-check these codes. He said. Find CF. Isabel nodded. But her eyes were troubled. Antonio. Javier's latest scan. It's not good. His brain activity's erratic. If he wakes. He might not be himself. The words hit like a punch. Antonio glanced at Javier. The man who'd saved him as a troubled teen. Now a shadow of his strength. Max whined. Nudging Antonio's hand. A reminder to keep fighting. Sofia burst in. Face pale. Sir. Luz, the federal agent. She's here. In San Isidro. Wants to meet. Says it's life or death. Antonio's heart raced. Luz could blow the case open or lead them into a trap. But with Javier fading, Luis exposed, and el fantasma closing in, he had no choice. Set it up, he said. And get Max ready, we're ending this. The meeting loomed. A chance to unmask the traitor. But as Antonio left the hospital, the black car from the plaza trailed him. Its shadow, a promise of blood. Hello, everyone. This is Huellas y Susurros, where mysteries and gripping tales are told with raw truth. If you love dark secrets and unshakable loyalty, hit subscribe and ring the bell to never miss an episode. Who is CF? Will Luz save Javier or seal Antonio's fate? Drop a comment. Share your thoughts. And let us know what city you're watching from. See you in the next chapter. The San Isidro skyline was a jagged silhouette against the dusk, its church spires piercing the heavy clouds. Detective Antonio Ruiz stood in an abandoned warehouse on the town's outskirts, the air thick with dust and the faint tang of rust. Max, the Norwegian elk-hound, stood alert beside him, his bandaged leg steady, his nose twitching at the stale air. The federal agent codenamed Luz had chosen this place for their meeting, a location far from prying eyes. But after the threats, the ambush, and Diego Vargas' death, Antonio trusted no one. His hand rested on his gun, the weight of the USB drive from Mayor Luis Salazar's safe grounding him. The ledger and photo linking Luis to Judge Miguel Serrano burned in his memory, as did the initial CF, a shadow that could be El Fantasma, the cartel's mole. The recording of Luis threatening police chief Javier Morales was damning. But Antonio needed more to unmask the true traitor. Luz could be the key. Or a trap. Sofia Navarro's voice crackled through his earpiece. She was positioned on a nearby rooftop, her sniper rifle trained on the warehouse. No movement yet. Sir. Perimeter's clear. Max. Okay, he's ready, Antonio said, patting the dog's head. Max's eyes gleamed, fierce and loyal, a reminder of why Antonio fought. Javier lay in the ICU, his kidneys failing, his brain at risk. Elena Morales clung to hope. But time was running out. A creak echoed from the warehouse door. Antonio then said, "Gun half drawn." As a woman stepped into the dim light, she was in her 40s. Wiry, with short black hair and eyes that scanned the room like a hawk. Her jacket bore no insignia, but her posture screamed federal training. "Ruiz?" she asked, voice low. Luz, Antonio replied, keeping Max close. The dog growled softly, sensing the stranger's edge. She nodded, raising empty hands. "Agent Clara Fuentes, Guardia Civil. Javier's my contact. I've been dark since his collapse." Antonio didn't lower his guard. "Prove it." Clara tossed a small badge, its seal catching the light. It matched Javier's description of his federal ally. "Javier sent me a coded message before he went down," she said. "He said you'd have his back. And his dog." Max tilted his head, as if recognizing Javier's name. Antonio relaxed slightly, but kept his gun ready. "Why go dark?" "Javier's fighting for his life. And you're hiding." Clara's jaw tightened. "I wasn't. Someone burned my safe house in Madrid. I've been tracking the cartel's network." Javier was close to exposing their top man in San Isidro. "El Fantasma. Who is he?" Antonio demanded, stepping closer. Clara glanced at the door, wary. "Javier suspected Luis Salazar. But I think it's bigger. The cartel's money flows through a syndicate tied to the regional council. Someone with power over the police, courts, and politics. CF. Antonio said, recalling the ledger's initials. Clara's eyes sharpened. You've got something. Show me. Antonio hesitated. Then pulled out the USB drive. Javier's evidence, bank records. A recording of Luis threatening him. And a photo with Salazar and Serrano. Ledger mentions, CF. Could be El Fantasma. Guerrera's face darkened. Serrano's dirty. But he's a middleman. Luis is deeper. But not the top. CF could be Carlos Fuentes. A concealman. He controls San Isidro's budget. Including police funding. Antonio's mind reeled. Carlos Fuentes. A quiet, respected figure. Had appointed Javier years ago. Could he be the mastermind? Before he could respond, Mac's growl deepened. His hackles rising. A faint scrape sounded from the rafters. Antonio spoon. Gun raised. As a shadow moved above. Down Clara shouted. Diving for cover. A silenced shot cracked. The bullet sparking against the concrete where Antonio had stood. Max lunged. Barking furiously. As two figures in black dropped from the beams. Guns blazing. Antonio rolled behind a crate. Returning fire. Clara drew a pistol. Her shots precise. Dropping one attacker. The second vanished into the shadows. Footsteps echoing. Sofia's voice screamed through the earpiece. Hostiles on the roof, I'm pinned. Hold them, Antonio shouted. Sprinting after the second shooter. Max raced ahead. His barks guiding the way. The warehouse was a labyrinth of crates and rusted machinery. Antonio's arm throbbed. Blood seeping through his bandage. But adrenaline pushed him forward. He rounded a corner. Spotting the shooter, a man in a ski mask. Aiming at Clara. Max. Go, Antonio commanded. The dog leaped. Jaws snapping. Tackling the shooter. The man screamed. His gun clattering to the floor. Antonio rushed forward. Cuffing him before he could recover. Clara emerged. Blood trickling from a graze on her cheek. Nistog. She said. Breathing hard. Antonio ripped off the shooter's mask. Revealing a scarred face he didn't recognize. Who sent you? He demanded. The man spat. Silent. Clara knelt. Checking his pockets. And pulled out a phone. Its screen showed a text warehouse. Kill Luz and Ruiz. CF. Carlos Fuentes. Antonio Grauwild. Or someone using his name. Clara Sais Nerowet. We need that drive decrypted. It's our only shot at proving who's who. Sofia's voice cut through the earpiece. Urgent. Sir. I've got one hostile down. But the others fled. I'm coming to you. As Sofia arrived. Antonio's phone buzzed. A new text from the unknown number. You're lucky. Ruiz. Luz won't be. His blood ran cold. Clara. You're a target now. He said. Stay with Sofia. Get the drive to a secure server. Clara nodded. But her eyes were troubled. Javier trusted you. Ruiz. Don't let him down. Back at the hospital. Antonio stood by Javier's bed. Max guarding the door. Elena was asleep. Her rosary clutched tight. Javier's monitors beeped. A faint hope in their rhythm. But Isabel's warning about his brain damage lingered. Sofia called from Isabel's lab. The drive's decrypted. Sire. It's a goldmine. Wiretaps. Photos. Emails. Luis and Serrano are named. But CF is coded. Could be Fuentes. But there's a meeting mentioned. Tomorrow. At the council chambers. Javier was planning to confront them. Antonio's pulse raced. A chance to catch El Fantasma in the open. Set up surveillance. he said. And get Clara there. As he hung up, Elena stirred. A voice soft. Antonio. J'avais kept a journal. At home. In his study. He never let me read it. But it might help. Antonio nodded. A new lead sparking hope. I'll check it tonight. Rest. Elena. The Morales house was dark. The break-in scars still fresh. Antonio swept inside. Max at his heels. Flashlight cutting through the gloom. The study was a wreck. But a hidden panel behind Javier's desk caught his eye. Inside was a leather journal. Its pages filled with Javier's precise handwriting. Antonio flipped through. Hartbounding. One entry stood out. Dated a week ago, Luis admitted his role. But swears his not. El Fantasma. Says CF runs everything. I'm meeting Luz to hand over evidence. If I don't make it. Trust Ruiz. Antonio's throat tightened. Javier had known the risk. Yet fought on. Max whined. Nudging his hand. As if urging him to keep going. A creak sounded from the hallway. Antonio froze. Gundraun. Max growled. Ears flat. As a shadow passed the door. Policía Antonio shouted. Stepping forward. The figure bolted. Crashing through the back door. Antonio gave chase. Max sprinting ahead. But the intruder vanished into the night. A black car peeling away. Breathing hard. Antonio clutched the journal. Its weight a promise. Javier had trusted him. Tomorrow's meeting was their chance to end this. But El Fantasma knew they were coming. As Antonio returned to the hospital, the black car's taillights haunted him. A reminder that the traitor's mask was slipping. But not yet off. Hello. Everyone. This is Huellas y Susurros. Where mysteries and gripping tales are told with raw truth. If you love dark secrets and unshakable loyalty, hit subscribe and ring the bell to never miss an episode. Is Carlos Fuentes El Fantasma? Will Javier's journal unmask the traitor? Drop a comment. Share your thoughts. And let us know what city you're watching from. See you in the next chapter. The San Isidro council chambers stood grand in the town's heart. Its stone facade, glowing under dawn's pale light. Inside, polished wood and velvet drapes, masked the rot. Detective Antonio Ruiz knew festered. He stood in the shadows of the balcony. His bandaged arm throbbing. Javier Morales's journal tucked inside his jacket. Max. The Norwegian elkhound. Crouched beside him. Ears alert. His bandaged leg barely slowing his focus. Today's meeting could unmask El Fantasma. The cartel's mole. Or end in blood. Antonio's earpiece crackled. Officer Sofia Navarro's voice was tense. Surveillance in place. Sir. Clara Fuentes is at the main entrance. Viat. No sign of Carlos Fuentes yet. Keep eyes on Luis Salazar and Miguel Serrano. Antonio said. Scanning the chamber below. Council members milled about. Their murmurs a low hum. Mayor Luis Salazar stood at the podium. His smile polished but strained. Judge Miguel Serrano sat nearby. His face unreadable. Hands folded over a leather briefcase. Carlos Fuentes. The councilman named in Javier's ledger as CF. Was absent. A red flag. The journal's final entry haunted Antonio. Luis admitted his role. But swears, he's not El Fantasma. Says CF runs everything. If Carlos was El Fantasma, today's meeting was his stage. But the black car trailing Antonio last night. The texts threatening his life. Screamed trap. Clara Fuentes. The federal agent codenamed Luz. Slipped into the chamber. Her wire hidden under a tailored jacket. She'd insisted on confronting Luis and Serrano directly. Leveraging Javier's evidence to force a reaction. Antonio trusted her skills, but feared her boldness. El Fantasma had burned her safe house, killed Diego Vargas, and poisoned Javier for weeks. They played a deadly game. Sofia's voice cut through. Sir. Max is restless. Something's off. Antonio glanced at Max, whose hackles were raised, nose twitching. The dog's instincts had saved Javier at the funeral parlor, and Antonio trusted them now. Check the exits, he said quietly. The meeting began. Luis's voice smoothed over the microphone. Today, we honor Chief Javier Morales, fighting for his life after a tragic collapse. San Isidro stands united against crime. Antonio's jaw clenched. Luis's hypocrisy burned, his recorded threat to Javier echoing in his mind. The USB drives, bank records and photo tied Luis to Serrano. But Carlos Fuentes initials. CF. Lumet Larrier. Clara Stud. Air voice clear. Mayor Salazar. I'm Agent Clara Fuentes, Guardia Civil. I have questions about your ties to a cartel operating in San Isidro's port. The chamber fell silent. Luis's smile froze, his eyes flicking to Serrano. Agent. This is hardly the place for accusations, he said, voice tight. It's exactly the place. Clara countered, holding up a folder. Bank records show millions funneled to your campaign from cartel fronts. Care to explain? Murmurs erupted. Serrano leaned forward, his voice calm but sharp. Agent Fuentes. You're out of line. Those records are fabricated. I suggest you retract your claims. Clara didn't flinch. And you, Judge Serrano. Your office accessed Chief Morales's files days before his poisoning. Why? Serrano's face hardened. But before he could reply, Max growled, low and fierce. Antonio followed the dog's gaze to a side door, where a man in a maintenance uniform slipped inside, his hand under his jacket. Trouble. Antonio whispered into his earpiece. Sofia. See the door. Now. Sofia's team moved. But the man was fast, pulling a silenced pistol. Antonio dove from the balcony, landing hard on the chamber floor. Gun drone. Police drop it, the gunman fired. The shot grazing Antonio's shoulder. Hot pain flaring. Max leaped, jaws snapping, tackling the man. The pistol skidded across the floor. Clara drew her weapon, covering Luis and Serrano, who stood frozen. Sofia's officers stormed in, cuffing the gunman. Antonio staggered to his feet, blood seeping through his jacket. Who sent you? He demanded. The man smirked, silent. Sofia checked his phone, her face grim. Text from an encrypted number. Says, kill Fuentes and Ruiz. CF. Carlos Fuentes. Antonio said, heart pounding. But Carlos wasn't here. Was he orchestrating this? Or being framed? Luis's voice broke the chaos. This is madness. I'm not involved. Clara stepped closer. Heck, unsteady. Then open your safe. Mayor. Javier's evidence says it holds proof. Luis Pilot. Glancing at Serrano, who shook his head subtly. Antonio caught the exchange, his suspicions sharpening. Do it, Luis, he said, voice cold. Before Luis could respond, a new voice boomed from the chamber's rear. Enough. Carlos Fuentes strode in, his silver hair catching the light, his presence commanding. Council members parted. Odd. Agent Fuentes. Detective Ruiz. You're disrupting a lawful meeting with baseless claims. Antonio's grip tightened on his gun. Baseless. Javier's journal names you. Carlos. CF. El fantasma. Carlos's eyes narrowed. But his smile was calm. A dying man's ravings. I'm here to restore order. Not so chaos. Max growled, lunging toward Carlos. Stopped only by Antonio's command. The dog's reaction chilled him. Max sensed something no one else did. Clara pressed forward. Then explained the ledger. Councilman. Your initials. Cartel payments. All tied to Luis and Serrano. Carlos's smile didn't waver. Fabrications. I've served San Isidro for decades. My record is clean. Sophia's voice hissed through Antonio's earpiece. Sir. We found explosives in the basement. Timed for 10 minutes from now. Antonio's blood ran cold. A trap. Not just for him and Clara. But for everyone. Evacuate. He shouted, grabbing Luis's arm. Sophia. Get them out. Chaos erupted. Council members scrambling for the exits. Clara Cufet Serrano, who protested loudly. Carlos moved toward the podium. But Antonio blocked him. Kun raced. You're not leaving. Carlos's calm cracked. His eyes blazing. You're a fool. Ruiz. You can't stop this. Max barked, circling Carlos. Teeth bared. Antonio's phone buzzed a text from the unknown number. Boom. CF. Disarm the bomb. Antonio shouted into his earpiece, shoving Carlos against the wall. Where's the detonator? Carlos laughed, chilling and hollow. You're too late. San Isidro burns tonight. Sophia's voice crackled. Fontique. Bomb squad's here. But it's complex. 5 minutes left. Antonio searched Carlos, finding a burner phone. Its screen showed a countdown 4:47. He smashed it. But the timer didn't stop. Clara dragged Serrano and Luis outside. A voice sharp. Ruiz. We need you, Antonio hesitated. Max's growls urging him on. He uncuffed Carlos, pushing him toward the exit. Move. Or I let Max finish you. Outside. Police and bomb techs swarmed the plaza. Sophia guided evacuees, her face pale. 3 minutes, she shouted. The bomb squad leader ran up, sweating. It's disarmed. But there's a second device. We're searching. Antonio's heart sank. Carlos's laugh echoed in his mind. El Fantasma had planned this. A spectacle to bury the truth. Clara approached. Serrano and Luis in custody. They're talking, she said. Luis claims Carlos forced him into the cartel. Serrano says the same. Antonio stared at Carlos, now cuffed in a police van. His calm was back. Unnerving. Es not el fantasma, Antonio said, a chill settling in. Es a decoy. Sophia's eyes widened. Then Antonio's phone buzzed. Another text. You saved them. Pity you won't save Javier. His blood froze. He sprinted to his car, Max leaping in, as Sophia shouted after him. The hospital was 10 minutes away. Javier was unguarded. Elena alone. As Antonio floored the gas, Max's barks filled the car. A war cry. El Fantasma was steps ahead. And Javier's life was the prize. Hello, everyone. This is Huellas y Susurros, where mysteries and gripping tales are told with raw truth. If you love dark secrets and unshakable loyalty, hit subscribe and ring the bell to never miss an episode. Is Carlos Adecoican Antonio Ruiz Javier in time? Drop a comment. Share your thoughts. And let us know what city you're watching from. See you in the next chapter. The streets of San Isidro blurred past as Detective Antonio Ruiz floored the gas, his unmarked car roaring toward the hospital. Max, the Norwegian elkhound, braced in the passenger seat. his barks sharp and urgent, mirroring Antonio's racing heart. The text burned in his mind. You saved them. Pity you won't save Javier. Police Chief Javier Morales, fighting for life in the ICU, was unguarded. Elena Morales alone, El Fantasma, the cartel's mole, was making their final move. Antonio's earpiece crackled. Officer Sofia Navarro's voice tense. Sir, I'm 5 minutes out with Clara Fuentes. Hospital security's alerted. But they're stretched thin after the council chamber bomb scare. Get there. Antonio snapped, swerving around a corner. And find Elena. Now. The council chamber trap. Carlos Fuentes' chilling laugh. The disarmed bombs, they were distractions. Carlos, cuffed and smug, had played his role. But Antonio's gut screamed he wasn't El Fantasma. Mayor Luis Salazar and Judge Miguel Serrano, now in custody, had pointed fingers at Carlos. But the ledger's initials, CF, and the threatening texts suggested a deeper betrayal. Javier's journal, naming CF as the true puppet master, was Antonio's only lead. Max growled, sensing the danger ahead. Antonio glanced at the dog. His loyalty, a lifeline. We'll make it. Boy, he said, voice tight. We have to. The hospital loomed, its lights dark against the night. Antonio screeched into the lot, leaping out with Max at his heels. His arm, grazed in the chamber, throbbed, blood soaking his bandage. But he pushed through. Gundrone. The ICU corridor was eerily quiet. The usual bustle replaced by a chilling stillness. 2 guards, meant to protect Javier, lay slumped outside his room, unconscious but breathing. Antonio's heart sank. He signaled Max to stay low, inching toward the glass door. Inside, Xavier lay still, monitors beeping faintly. Elena stood by his bed, her back to the door, her auburn hair catching the light. But something was wrong. Her hands moved, not in comfort, but with purpose, adjusting Javier's IV line. Elena, Antonio called, stepping inside. Gun raced. She froze, turning slowly. Her face, usually soft with grief, was hard. Her eyes cold. In her hand was a syringe, its needle glinting. Max growled. Aquel raised, poised to strike. Antonio, Elena said, voice calm, almost mocking. You're too late. His stomach dropped. What are you doing? Elena's lips curled into a bitter smile. Saving myself. You wouldn't understand. Antonio's mind reeled. Elena, Javier's devoted wife, the woman who'd wept at his side, was poisoning him. The journal's warning. CF runs everything. Echoed. CF, not Carlos Fuentes, but Carmen Fuentes, Elena's sister. Or a code for Elena herself. Step away from him. Antonio ordered, his gun steady. Now. Elena laughed, low and hollow. You think you've won? Javier was a fool, chasing ghosts. The cartel owns San Isidro. Antonio, they owned him, too. Until he fought back. Put the syringe down, Antonio said, stepping closer. Max circled, teeth bared, a silent threat. Elena's eyes flicked to the door, as if expecting rescue. You don't know the half of it, she said. Luis, Serrano, Carlos, they're pawns. El Fantasma is untouchable. Then who is it? Antonio demanded, his voice raw. You. Her smile faltered, a crack in her facade. Not me. But I had no choice. They threatened my family. My sister. Carmen. My life. Antonio's grip tightened. Carmen. Elena's sister. Had been at the funeral parlor. At the hospital. Always in the background. Was she CF? Before Elena could move. Footsteps pounded the corridor. Sofia and Clara Fuentes burst in. Guns drawn. Drop it. Elena, Sofia shouted. Elena's hand trembled. The syringe inches from Javier's IV. Mex lunged. Jaws snapping. Knocking her arm. The syringe clattered to the floor. Shattering. Elena screamed. Stumbling back. As Sofia cufeder. Clara checked Javier's monitors. Her face grim. He's stable. But we need a talk screen. She dosed him with something. Antonio's heart pounded. Betrayal cutting deeper than his wounds. Elena. Why, he asked. Voice breaking. Tears streaked her face. Her défiance crumbling. Carmen. She whispered. She's with them. She brought me coffee every morning. Laced with the poison for Javier. Said it was to make him retire. Not kill him. I didn't know. Until it was too late. Carmen Fuentes. Antonio said. The initials CF snapping into place. Elena's sister. Quiet. Unassuming. Always close. Sofia's eyes widened. Carmen was at the council chambers. Sire. She left before the bomb scare. Clara's voice was sharp. She's el fantasma. Javier's evidence pointed to a woman in the inner circle. Carmen fits. Antonio's mind raced. Carmen had access to Javier's home. His coffee. His trust. She'd manipulated Elena. Poisoned Javier for weeks. And orchestrated the council trap. But where was she now? He grabbed his phone. Calling coroner Isabel Torres. Isabel. Lock down the lab. Carmen Fuentes is our suspect. She dangerous. Isabel's voice was frantic. Antonio. She was here an hour ago. Asking for Javier's tox reports. I didn't give them. But she left fast. Track her. Antonio said. Hanging up. He turned to Sofia. Get Elena to a holding cell. Clara. Stay with Javier. Max. With me. Sofia hesitated. Sir. Your arm, you're bleeding out. I'll live. Antonio said. Though dizziness crept in. Carmen's not done. She'll come for Javier's evidence. The hospital's security office was a cramped room. Monitors flickering with grainy footage. Antonio reviewed tapes. Max at his side. As Sofia coordinated a manhunt for Carmen, a clip from the lab showed Carmen. Her face calm. Slipping a USB drive into her pocket before leaving. She's got a copy of Javier's files. Antonio said. Heart sinking. Everything we have on Luis. Serrano. Carlos. Sofia's phone buzzed. Her face paling. Sir. Carmen's car was spotted at the port. She's heading to the same pier as the Sting. Antonio's blood ran cold. Pier Decept. Where Diego fell. Where the cartel's shipment vanished. Carmen was tying loose ends. Or meeting her masters. He sprinted to his car. Max leaping in. Ignoring Sofia's protests. The port was a maze of shadows. The fog thicker now. Cloaking the cranes. Antonio parked a block away. Moving on foot. Max's nose guiding them. At Pier Decept. A yacht bobbed in the water. Its deck lit by a single lamp. Carmen stood there. Speaking to a man in a suit. His face hidden. Antonio crept closer. Earpiece picking up Sofia's update. Backups 10 minutes out. Sir. Wait for us. No time. Antonio whispered. signaling Max to stay low. Carmen's voice carried, sharp with anger. You promised protection. Javier's alive. And Ruiz has the drive. The man's reply was low, cultured. You failed. Carmen. The cartel doesn't tolerate mistakes. Antonio's heart stopped. That voice familiar. Chilling. He edged closer, catching the man's profile. Not Carlos. Not Luis. But Rafael Cortés. San Isidro's police commissioner. Javier's mentor. The man who'd appointed him chief, CF, Carmen Fuentes. Or Cortés Fuentes Rafael. Carmen's distant cousin. Had been in the shadows all along, pulling strings. Before Antonio could move, Carmen drew a gun, aiming at Rafael. I'm done running, she shouted. Rafael laughed, raising his hand. A sniper's shot cracked, and Carmen fell, blood pooling on the deck. Antonio dove for cover. Max growling, as Rafael boarded the yacht, its engine roaring to life. Stop him! Antonio shouted, firing at the yacht's hull, but it sped into the fog, vanishing. Sofia stima arrivet. Too late. Carmen lay dead, her secret silenced. Antonio stared at the water. Rafael's laughter echoing. El Fantasma had slipped away. But not for long. Back at the hospital, Javier's monitors beeped. A fragile hope. Elena. In custody. Wept. Broken by her sister's betrayal. Antonio clutched Javier's journal. Max at his side, knowing the final battle loomed. Hello, everyone. This is Huellas y Susurros, where mysteries and gripping tales are told with raw truth. If you love dark secrets and unshakable loyalty, hit subscribe and ring the bell to never miss an episode. Is Rafael Cortés. El Fantasma. Can Antonio stop him before Javier falls? Drop a comment. Share your thoughts. And let us know what city you're watching from. See you in the next chapter. The San Isidro hospital glowed defiantly against the dawn. Its lights a beacon in a town scarred by betrayal. Inside the ICU, Police Chief Javier Morales clung to life, his monitors beeping with fragile hope. Detective Antonio Ruiz stood by his bed, his bandaged arm numb, blood seeping through from the night's chaos. Max, the Norwegian elk-hound, lay at his feet, bandaged but vigilant, his eyes locked on the door. The weight of Javier's journal, the USB drive, and the ledger pressed against Antonio's chest, a map to the truth. Paid for in blood. Elena Morales sat in a holding cell, broken by her sister Carmen's betrayal. Carmen, gunned down at Pier 17, had been a pawn, poisoning Javier under orders from Rafael Cortés, San Isidro's police commissioner. The true El Fantasma. Rafael's escape into the fog haunted Antonio, his cultured voice echoing. The cartel doesn't tolerate mistakes. Major Luis Salazar, Judge Miguel Serrano, and Councilman Carlos Fuentes were in custody. But Rafael, the mastermind, was free, his shadow looming over Javier's fading life. Antonio's phone buzzed. Officer Sofia Navarro's voice urgent. Sir, we've got a lead on Rafael. His private jet's prepped at an airstrip outside town. Clara Fuentes is with me. We're en route. Pick me up, Antonio said, glancing at Javier. This ends now. Sofia hesitated. Sir, you're hurt. Let Clara handle it. No, Antonio said, voice steel. Rafael's mine. Max. Come. Max stood, tail stiff, ready for battle. Antonio left Javier with hospital security, reinforced by Sofia's team. Elena's words. They threatened my family. Linga. A reminder of the cartel's reach. Rafael had played them all. But Antonio wouldn't let him flee. The airstrip was a desolate stretch of cracked tarmac, flanked by scrubland and rusted hangars. Dawn's light barely pierced the fog, cloaking the scene in gray. Sofia's SUV screeched to a stop. Antonio and Max leaping out. Clara Fuentes, the federal agent codenamed Luz, checked her rifle. Her face grim. Rafael's jets in Hangar Tiga. She said. Two guards outside. Armed. Plan, Sofia asked. Her pistol ready. Clara. Take the left flank. Antonio said. Sofia. Right. I'll go straight in with Max. No shots unless necessary. We need Rafael alive. Clara nodded. Slipping into the fog. Sofia hesitated, eyeing Antonio's bloodied arm. Sir. If you collapse, Max can't drag you out. He won't. Antonio said, meeting Max's fierce gaze. Let's go. Boy. They crept toward Hangar 3. Max's nose low. Sniffing for danger. The guard stood by the jet. Submachine guns slung casually. Antonio signaled Max to circle, using the fog for cover. The dog moved like a ghost, silent and deadly. Antonio lunged, disarming the first guard with a swift strike, cuffing him to a pipe. Sofia took down the second, her movements precise. Clare measte, signaling the hangar door. Clear. She whispered. Inside. The jet's engines whined, ready for takeoff. Rafael Cortez stood by the steps, impeccably suited, speaking into a phone. His voice was calm, chilling. Clean the loose ends. Morales. Ruiz. The agent. No traces. Antonio's blood boiled. He stepped forward. Gun raised. Rafael. It's over. Drop the phone. Rafael turned, his smile unfazed. Antonio. Persistent. Aren't you? And your dog. Impressive. Max growled, teeth bared, poised to strike. Sofia and Clara flanked Antonio, weapons trained. Hands up. Clara said. You're under arrest. Rafael laughed, tossing the phone. Arrest me. You have no idea what you're up against. The cartel's bigger than San Isidro. Bigger than Spain. We have Javier's evidence. Antonio said. Your payments. Your orders to Carmen. Your voice on the wiretaps. You're el fantasma. Rafael's eyes flickered. But his calm held. Evidence. A USB drive. A journal, easily discredited. I'm a respected commissioner. You're a bleeding detective with a vendetta. Then explain this. Sofia said, holding up a decrypted email from the USB. Projected on her phone. It detailed Rafael's orders to Carmen. Signed CF Cortés Fuente. You poisoned Javier for months. Used Elena. Killed Diego. For what money? Rafael's smile faded. A crack in his mask. Not money. Power. San Isidro's a hub. Antonio. Drugs. Weapons. Influence. Javier was a pebble in the machine. You're no different. Antonio stepped closer. Max growls vibrating. Javier trusted you. He called you mentor. Rafael's face twisted. A flash of regret. Javier was family. But he chose the wrong side. Like you. A sudden roar shook the hangar, the jet's engine surging. Rafael dove for the steps. A hidden pistol in his hand. Antonio tackled him. Pain exploding in his arm as they hit the tarmac. Max leaped, pinning Rafael's wrist. The gun skidding away. Clara Kufet Rafael. Af voice cold. Game over. Cotes. Sophia shut down the jet. Its wine fading. Raphael laughed. Blood trickling from his lip. You think this stops it, the cartel's coming. Ruiz. You've signed your death warrant. Antonio stood. Dizzy, but defiant. Let them come. We'll be ready. Back at the hospital. Raphael was locked in a secure cell. Guarded by Clara's federal team. Javier's condition had stabilized. But his kidneys and brain bore scars. Coroner Isabel Torres ran new tox screens. Confirming Camen's poison. Traced to Raphael's offshore accounts. Elena. Released pending trial. Wept. Her role coerced but unforgivable. Sophia handed Antonio the full USB decryption wiretaps. Ledgers. Fotos exposing a cartel network spanning Spain. Clara's taking it to Madrid. She said. This could bring down dozens. Antonio nodded. Exhaustion settling in. Max nudged his hand. Aquieta anchor. Javier would be proud. He said. Voice rough. A week later. San Isidro's plaza was quiet. The council chambers boarded up. Luis. Serrano. And Carlos faced charges. Their empires crumbling. Raphael's trial loomed. His silence. A final act of defiance. The cartel's shadow lingered. But Antonio felt a spark of hope. Javier stirred in his bed. His eyes fluttering open for the first time. Antonio. He whispered. Voice weak, but alive. Tias stung Antonio's eyes. Welcome back. Chief. Elena. Barred from the room. Cinta letter. Begging forgiveness. Antonio left it unopened. Unsure if Javier could forgive. Max lay by Javier's side. Tail wagging. His loyalty unwavering. Clara visited. Her face softer. You did good. Ruiz. Javier's evidence will change things. But watch your back. The cartel doesn't forget. I know. Antonio said. Scratching Max's ears. But neither do we. The town council offered Antonio the chief's badge. But he declined. Choosing the streets over the desk. Sophia took lead on the cartel case. Her fire matching Javier's. San Isidro was wounded. But healing. Its people reclaiming their home. Antonio walked Max to the plaza. The church bells ringing. The dog bounded ahead. Chasing a leaf. A symbol of life amid the scars. Antonio smiled. Javier's journal in his pocket. A reminder of trust. Sacrifice. And the fight worth waging. The fog lifted. And San Isidro breathed again. Its heart beating strong. Hello. Everyone. This is Huellas y Susurros. Where mysteries and gripping tales are told with raw truth. If you love dark secrets and unshakable loyalty, hit subscribe and ring the bell to never miss an episode. What's next for Antonio and Max? Will the cartel strike back? Drop a comment. Share your thoughts. And let us know what city you're watching from. Thank you for joining this journey. Until next time.